Hi, everyone. Today we are going to discuss climate change in the news. So a little bit later, we're going to look at some different climate change articles, and we're going to try to make sense of the different things that newspapers report about climate change. Today's warm-up is super important. Lesson 38 warm-up is a survey, so it's a little different than you would normally expect for warm-ups in our class, but what you're going to do is you're going to answer the question on that survey with as many specific answers as you can think of. Please be creative. And so the question is, what topics in science, medicine, technology, or engineering and math are you interested in learning more about? List as many as you like. So we want you to be specific and creative, and that's because your answers are going to help me and Ms. Chaudhry plan a special surprise for some of your upcoming classes. So write down anything that interests you in science, technology, engineering, or math. It does not have to be something that we've talked about in class. It does not have to be something that you think I have knowledge of. So just to be slightly clearer, Ms. Chaudhry and I are going to invite some people outside of Olmsted North to do some lessons for you guys. And these people might have skills or knowledge that I do not have. So again, be specific and be creative. Right, and so our plan for today was we did the warm-up, and then we watched a climate change basics video. After that, we did a news article card sort, then we did a climate change solutions discussion, and lastly, we did an exit slip. So today's goal is by the end of today, you will be able to evaluate news media for evidence of changes due to climate change and analyze data for patterns. So the first thing that we did was watch a climate change basics video. You can watch this video by yourself. It just reviews the causes and effects of climate change. Almost everything in there is something that you've heard before. So as you watch the video, I want you to think about whether there are any additional effects of climate change that the video just did not mention. Again, you're going to do that by yourself. So open up these Google Slides and do this by yourself. All right, next we're going to take a look at some news articles. So climate change is one of the biggest environmental issues facing us today, and as a result, there are many issues that get reported on in the news relating to new research, evidence for climate change, and changes in weather patterns. In this activity, you are going to sort through a number of different stories and organize them into different categories. So essentially, you're going to get a Jamboard that looks like this. And the directions are in blue here, but on the next slide, you're going to see 23 different headlines. Your job is to find what is common between them and put them in 3 to 5 different categories. You decide what the categories are. So the first thing you're going to do when you see these headlines is try to find some patterns. What are some different topics in climate change that these headlines might be talking about? So for example, looking at these 23 headlines, I see some of them have to do with electricity. So I'm going to change the name of category 1 to electricity. And then I'm going to move all the headlines about electricity underneath this category. There's one more. What was the other electricity? Oh yeah, this one. Right? That's all you're going to do. So you're just going to try to figure out, you're going to try to sort these 23 headlines into about 5 different categories. You make up the categories. It's totally up to you, whatever topics you think make the most sense. Now, some of these headlines don't quite make sense by themselves. For example, number 4 says, "These zombies threaten the whole planet." You might look at that and say, "Mr. Bean, what on earth are you talking about? Zombies don't exist." And I would say, you're right. But the authors of this article use zombies to refer to oil rigs. But how would you know that? So if you go onto Google Classroom, if you go to the Lesson 38 Headlines Activity post, you're also going to find a Google Doc. If you open the Google Doc called Climate Change Headlines, you're going to see the headline, you're going to see when it was published, you'll find a link to the actual article, you're going to see where the article comes from, and then you're going to see the first paragraph of the article. So this has all 23 articles that you saw on that Google Jamboard. They are all numbered. So the zombie headline is numbered number 4. So if we go over to this Google Doc, if we go down to number 4, we'll be able to read a little bit about the zombies. And of course, it's not zombies, it's actually oil donkeys, which are like oil rigs, but on land. The machines that pull oil out of the land. All right, so you're just going to sort these different headlines into different categories. This assignment is not graded, so you don't have to do it if you don't want to. But I recommend taking a look at these headlines anyway. All right. Cool. So after we talked about the headline activity, we looked over some solutions to climate change. And that's just because in the past, we were not 100% sure that climate change was happening. But now we are definitely 100% positive that climate change is real, it is happening, and it's very serious. So now we sort of have to ask ourselves, what can be done about climate change? So you all know some things that you can do right now to slow down climate change. You might know some small things, some big things. Some examples might be like riding your bike to school or to work or to your house instead of taking a car. Or maybe it's taking a bus instead of taking a car. Maybe it's eating less meat. Or maybe it's like turning off the TV when you're not using it. Those are all little things that you can do. Some big things that we as a species can do is, like maybe our government could limit the amount of carbon dioxide that companies can put into the atmosphere. Or maybe like our government can push fossil fuel companies to switch to green energy. So those are some possible different solutions. And that's going to be important for the exit step, because the exit step question is, what is your preferred solution to climate change? Your solution can be big, it can be small, it's up to you. Just tell me about a solution to climate change that you like, and use evidence to explain why your solution would work. Remember, whenever you use evidence, you have to tell me where you got your evidence. For this question, please use your own words and ideas. Please avoid using Google. So if you go on Google Classroom, under week 22, there is a post called Lesson 38 Warm-Up, or 38 Exit Step. That's the exit step we're doing right now. There's actually also a link to a document with evidence. So if you click on that link, you're going to come to the same data sheet that you used for asynchronous work this week. So here you can find evidence to support your preferred solution. Right? That's all that we had for class today. So I look forward to seeing you next class.